So I've received a lot of questions regarding the mixdown of a track, and I thought it would be a good time to look into a track of mine and how I went about the mix of this track. You've already heard this track briefly in the trailer of my new show, and I want to take a look at the drop, which is the most important part of this track, and let's be honest, about every dance track. Before we're gonna look into the individual layers on the track, it's really important to note what mixing is really. Mixing is making sure that all the sounds in a track have their rightful place in the mix. To achieve this, you can use lots of different techniques. The most common one is using volume, like lower some elements, boost some elements. You can also use EQ, you can use reverbs, delay to bring sounds more in the front or in the back. And today I'm gonna look at how I did this for my track Victory for Earth, which is the trailer track for my new album. As you can hear, the main elements are all in there, but some are really fighting for frequency range and for room. I always see it like when you're decorating your room, you have some room to work with, and full is full. You need to make sure that everything has a place, and some things you may like in the beginning, but at the end you don't have enough room for them, so take them out so there's room for the more important elements of the track. I usually start the mixdown process from the kick drum because it's the most important part in a dance music production. For this one, the kick was already pretty okay, so I only had to boost a little bit in the lows and take a little bit away in the mid lows, and here again some boosting in the lower frequencies. The main problem with this track was that the bass, the psy bass lines, which are really important for this track, didn't really work well with the kick drum. So without the processing, it would sound like this. And you can hear the bass lines are fighting with each other. And the main thing I did with this was I spread one bass line all the way to the side, and I took away all the low end of this kick drum. What am I saying? This bass. So instead of having it sound like here in the middle, this layer goes all the way to the sides, and what you get then is a nice balanced mix. And did the same with every other layer in this track for the bass line, because the kick has a super important position in this track. So when you combine it now, the kick and the bass line, it will sound like this. So that's one important part done for this track. As I've said, it can be much difficult if your kick is not good enough. You have to work a lot with EQing and compressing, but I always tend to look longer for the right sample than spend a lot of time on EQing a sample for just to get it right sounding in the mix. Then the next thing I noticed in this track was the synths. The melodies were cool, but they didn't really pop out. If you listen to them solo, they're not really there yet. So if we're gonna look at the first one, the drop lead number 1, I also already did some EQing. I boosted the highs and took away the lows because, again, the bass has that place in my room, so to say. Added some reverbs. So this one sounds a little bit fresher and crispy in the high end, of course. The second one was a more nasty one, but the trick here was to add an OTT, upward downward compressor. You can hear, when I play it, you can hear it come to life. So a really big difference if you go from this to this. And then again, did some EQing, boost a lot of the highs. I like to use a lot of high frequencies in my leads because, yeah, I just like that. That's, some people think it's too much, but I think personally it's quite okay. So, and then some compression to really make it pumping. And I think I did the same with this one. Roughly the same. Again, some EQing. Take a bit of the mid highs, add some highs, and then compress it, put some OTT on it. And then I used the simple delay effect to widen this one up so it's not clashing with the other leads. So instead of it being like on top of them, so it really creates a different room for this lead. So if we're gonna take these parts now with the bass lines and the kick drum, then we will get a... So you can get a clear, I had a clear idea for this, like the bass will take up the part where the kick is not playing, but only the lower frequencies and the mid frequencies and a little bit of the highs, so you have a little crispy top. And the leads mostly are in the high frequencies. That's the main parts of this track to get it sound like really full. And I love that I can't give you a clear-cut answer on how to mix your track, but I can only say for every sound needs to have a place in your track. I had times that I used lots of different sounds and lots of different layers, and it will only get more difficult to mix them down at the end. So I just, less is really more sometimes. So yeah, that's mostly the things I did to this track to get it more like pumping, like the main elements, the synths, the basses and the kicks. And all the rest that goes around it, basically the same routine you're doing. You're just gonna look for where do I have space in the mix and where can I bring this sound more to the forefront or to the background. And is this sound really necessary over there? So that's what I want to show you this week. Next week we'll be back with a new video and I hope to see you all there. So take care, bye bye.